Welcome to another episode of PSL on the Mic. I believe this is episode 11, and we have two guests today for the very first time. We have Mayor Martin and we have Division Chief Chad Crouse with the St. Lucie County Fire District. So y'all could probably guess what we're going to be talking about today. We're actually talking about something very important. The mayor brought this up to me and wanted to bring in Division Chief Crouse to talk about the Insurance Services Office fire rating and how that impacts the community and how important it is for St. Lucie County and Port St. Lucie. But first, Chief Crouse, I want you to tell us about yourself before we get into the nitty-gritty.
So I started working for the St. Lucie County Fire District in 2004, but my family history has been here before that. My father, Arthur Crouse, was a battalion chief here for 33 years, and my grandfather was part of the volunteers back then. So,
oh, wow.
When it came time to choose a fire department, it was either here or I couldn't come to Thanksgiving dinner.
Easy choice.
So that was actually said. Currently, my position is Division Chief of Training and Safety, also our Communications Division, which is a new role. We have a division that's also new from last year, which is our Community Outreach and Recruitment.
Ah, very important.
And of course, two processes that aren't divisions, but they're special projects, which is our ISO process and our accreditation process. So those are kind of the roles that I'm responsible for right now, but it's a big team that does all of that. So really, it's just kind of putting it all together so that we have these agencies come in and evaluate us and gives us a benchmark for where we need to go moving forward and how we're doing now.
That's awesome. Let's get into it. Explain what the ISO rating is and how it's determined. We were talking a little bit about this before we came on the air. So
the ISO rating is it's a really important process for us because what it's evaluating is not the end result. It section by section evaluates us on the components that are needed to have a fire response and to keep the community safe. So what that means is just because you meet it over here, they're still looking at each part of the process. So it starts really with our telecommunicators, which is a unsung hero of our operations. They're the first person to take that call. If you can imagine how individuals are trying to get that information out very fast, it's a stressful situation.
Sometimes they're scared.
And so they're taking that limited information and they're able to get that out to our units right away so that we can start that process to get there. So communications and call processing times is one component. And this last evaluation process, they did an amazing job. We got almost every single point there. I think we were like 9.95 out of 10 points.
Wonderful. That's great.
So we'll get the last 0.5 somewhere in the next evaluation, but they did an amazing job, and I like to start with them because that's how our calls start, is with telecommunicators. So now our units are responding to these scenes. So they need to get out of the station. Our benchmark is we want our crews out of the station from the time we alert them in the truck going within 60 seconds for a fire call and within 80 seconds for emergency services, or 80 seconds for a fire, 60 seconds for emergency medical call.
Wow.
They have to get their bunker gear on, so we make them do it really fast.
Really fast.
So the goal for ISO in the section that's known as our deployment analysis, how quickly we get our crews on scene, because we need people there to put out a fire, is that they want our first due suppression, meaning the engine that has the water on it, they want them there within 5 minutes and 20 seconds. From the time they get the call to that includes the 80 seconds we gave them, there. We're flying there at that point. So they have to get there. And then we need 2 more suppression units, and one of them has to be a ladder truck, which is an important topic for us, where to put those in the county, because they're a larger truck. They have a different use on fire scenes, and they're a lot more expensive. So we need another engine and an aerial, and those 2 units have to be there within 9 minutes and 20 seconds. So now we've gotten the call. We are getting our people there. And the next section is, well, we got them there. How are they going to put out the fire? They need water. Very crucial area. And during this evaluation process, it was the largest improvement that we had. And it's really what drove us to get this better, lower rating to an ISO 2.
And why was it such an improvement this year as compared to other years?
So our community risk reduction division is led by our fire marshal, Captain Wayne Boyer, and his team we have a lot of water purveyors in the county.
Okay.
So each of those hydrants that you see, we need to make sure we know how much water is coming out of it, that it's maintenance serviced. They were able to pilot a program that allowed us to really increase the number of those that we could say, yes, we know how much water is in these. And they had a substantial increase from our previous rating, and that was really what got us to push over. They did an amazing job. It was a ton of man hours. There were hours that they just were working with the city. They were working everything they can do, and that team came together with the city to really improve that. So that was important to see. So we've gotten the call. We've gotten our firefighters there. They have water. We need to train them on how to use it. So they evaluate our training records, and so our firefighters have to have so many hours in different categories, and we were also received every point in that category. So the training division, the team that I'm fortunate enough to work with, they're out there. We have 450 firefighters.
Wow.
And we have 6 full-time training officers.
Okay.
So they are training.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot going on, and our crews are amazing too. So then it's all well and good that we've solved this problem, but we don't want these fires to happen. So there's another component that is about public education and reducing these risks. How many people are we getting to and communicating in the community? And Stacy Carter is one of our public education specialists along with that whole team, and they also captured just a ton of points in that area. So we did move into it too. So that process is unique in that it really does make sure you don't have weak links. You have to be able to address each thing, and you can't just skate by. And it's an independent third party. So the company that creates the ISO is called VeriRisk.
Okay.
And do you want me to get into exactly how that score is used with insurance, or you want me to hold off on that?
I think we're going to talk about that. Yeah, go ahead and start, because I want to make sure that Mayor Martin gets to talk about how this all impacts Port St. Lucie as well. So yeah.
So it's very hard to pin down a VeriRisk person to tell you exactly how this works, and it's not their fault, right? So this score is used by insurance companies in order to determine the risk associated with a business or an individual residence.
Homeowner. Okay.
Homeowner. Each one of them uses it in a little bit different of a fashion. Some people, it's a large component, some it's slightly smaller. So it's very hard to say this is what will happen as a result. When you look at all of the data, the lower the ISO rating, the more homeowners are able to save on their homeowners insurance. Particularly businesses. The higher the value of the insured property, the more that this comes into that.
Okay, and the scale, I'm assuming, is 10 to 1, and we're 2.
Yes. So the lower is better. To become an ISO 1, we needed 90 points. We were just over 85. So 85 and some change, and we kind of looking forward to trying to get to the ISO 1 in the future. We are evaluated every 5 years.
Okay.
So that will be the next.
So the ISO is every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Okay, so it's not every year. Okay, that'd be a pretty big.
I don't have a lot of hair, but I wouldn't have any left. Lowest hair would be gone.
It's important to note that we have made improvements over time.
Yeah.
And getting the scores lower and lower each time to improve our rating, and so we finally made it to that 2. But to be so close is really great for the next rating period in another 5 years, and hopefully we'll be able to get to that 1.
That's amazing.
There is a caveat that we're going to speak about stations later.
Yeah.
That if we feel that we're ready for them to evaluate us early, and we open, because the deployment analysis is where we could get the rest of those points.
Sure.
That we could ask them to come back and evaluate us early. So that really is on our mind to see, when we get the stations open. But this is, like Mayor Martin said, this is the third one I've been involved in. I started with a very small section, and then I moved there. And so it's kind of nice to see the progress that we've made.
The improvements every time. Yeah.
Every time. Every evaluation has netted an increase. So that's a commitment to the fire board, to our previous administrations, this administration, on really making sure that that's high on our priority list.
Yeah, and Mayor, what does this mean for the residents of Port St. Lucie?
So in terms of the insurance, we all know what insurance looks like now in terms
We do.
of trying to get insurance
Yeah.
and how costly it is. So what people don't realize is that even though those costs are high, this helps, because even though the different insurance companies look at it differently, it does help across the board because our rates would be higher that we would be getting if we didn't have this low rating.
Right.
And then if you look at it holistically, it just ensures to our citizens all the measures that we take from a first response side, from our fire district, to make sure that we have a great flow through from that point of call to our telecommunicators that they need assistance, all the way to making sure that we're have those response times in check, and we're doing everything we can to improve them to get to those people sooner, to save lives, or to save a house from fire. And so it's vitally important, and this is the stuff that people don't realize because they see, you know, fire trucks running, or they see rescue trucks running for calls, but our citizens don't really know what it all is entailed
What goes into all of
to
this.
get to this point,
Yeah.
and to make sure that we're doing everything possible to, when every second counts, to get to those citizens who need assistance.
Yes, ma'am.
And that brought up a point. So when I was evaluating the data, we're going through every structure fire. And a lot of those calls for structure fires don't end up being structure fires. But we have to get there to determine that, you know what, the fire's out already. Maybe it was just an outlet or a false alarm. So our crews work 24 hours. Some of our busiest stations, that's 20 to 25 calls a shift. They may be up the whole time. And during that review, I just remember looking at one of our stations, Station 15, and it was a little bit before 1 a.m., and they received a structure fire call, and they got out of the station, and under 60 seconds, even beating the 80-second time, they got on scene, and there's no fire. They handled it, went back. At 2:15, they received another structure fire call, still got out in under 80 seconds, met the first due time. The third one was an actual structure fire. So the commitment to them knowing that even despite the probability that the majority of those calls don't end up being actual structure fires, but they still commit every time, that was amazing to me to sit back and look at what a rough, because I can remember how rough of a night that was. You're, you know, just when you think, and each time, but they never let that impact their ability to get out of the station. And that's a lot of our stations, not just Station 15. So that was huge, and it just made me kind of reflect on that when you talked about it, about the
Saving
commitment.
lives, yeah. How can residents, county residents, city residents, find more information about this ISO rating?
Okay. I'm gonna put my glasses on for this.
Feel free. We're all bespectacled
because I
here.
want to make sure I get the link right.
Okay.
So I'll just be on the right page. So when you go to our website, which is www.slcfd.com, on the top of that, you're going to see a tab that says Doing Business. When you select that tab, there's going to be a link that comes up that says Insurance Agency Information.
Okay.
Once you click there, there is a PDF of the copy of that letter, and we're going to put that link in this podcast. And if you don't, there's a phone number, 772-621-3322, and that's going to take you to our Community Risk Reduction Division.
Okay.
And they really know how to handle this, and any information that you're missing, they're going to be able to provide. So rather than going through the operator, that number will take you right to that division, and they'll be able to get and help you from there. But that's where the letter is from our fire marshal outlining what your insurance company will need from us.
And I don't think a lot of people know about this. So I'm so glad, Mayor, that you brought this topic up for us, because you're telling me there's a letter. I didn't know about this. I didn't know there's a letter that you can send in with when you're shopping around for insurance. Now, say if I currently have my homeowners, would I be able to submit this letter now to maybe negotiate a lower rate, or is it kind of when you're shopping around?
Well, to my understanding, you're getting a renewal when you come up for renewal.
Okay.
But I would submit it to them right away.
Okay, so they have it on file. Yeah.
Depending on I can't ever speak for the insurance agencies,
right.
but to get it to them and say, hey, our community improved to ISO 2 rating, I have the document. I'd like to submit this and see what we can do. And sometimes you have to work with this. You know, I moved into a new house a couple of years back, and it's a lot of work sometimes. 4 or 5 companies to find, and each one does it a little bit differently. So you do want to shop around and see, because some people may highly value this, and others may have a different, you know, item that they're looking at.
Okay, well
But it's
good
worth
to
it.
know.
It's definitely worth the try. Think about it. Just, I can tell you, for my homeowners, so I have to shop because I'm getting canceled this year. So it was, okay, well, we need a 4-point inspection to make sure that your house is good. Oh, and also we need a letter from a certified roofing contractor to say that your roof has another 5 years of life. And so, okay, send the ISO letter as well. And anything that can be done in order to reduce our rates here in the county, and especially in Port St. Lucie, you know, we should be trying to do. So submitting a letter is, when you have to submit everything else, is not really that big of a deal. So give it to them all and try it and see what, you know, can be done, and hopefully it'll help reduce rates. It's supposed to. So
Now, one thing I do, you have to explain with ISO that's there's 2 ratings. So our ISO 2 is for homes or businesses that are within 5 miles of a fire station.
Okay.
You have to think of the size of our county.
Right.
So that rating applies to those, because we do have a lot of orange things out west. So there, if you're outside of 5 miles, then you're going to fall into a different class rating. So that's one of the caveats to this, because we are, some places like City of Stuart has ISO 1 rating, but they're a very small area, and it makes it really, it makes it a little bit easier to do that. Countywide departments usually don't have ratings this low because of the size of it. So, and that brings up, you know, one of the reasons when we'll talk about stations later and why those are so important.
Well, while we're on this subject, we're going to get into it right now. Growth is huge. It's the talk of the town or city. Fire Station 18, I believe, broke ground this past August, and there's a couple other ones.
Yes.
Let's get into it. Why do we need all of these? Obviously, we need all of these new fire stations because of all of the growth. Let's talk about where they're going to be eventually.
So we look every year at the number of calls for service, especially with the growth that is happening that everyone knows about. And so in doing so, we have to plan for where we're going to need future fire stations. So we're upwards of looking at 66,000 calls for service just from the fire district alone.
In 1 year.
Wow. With over, was it 45,000?
45,000.
45,000 calls being actual transports.
Right.
So that is huge. And knowing that, we have had to make sure that we have the stations, and we have the personnel, and we have the apparatus and the rolling stock in order to give the guys and girls the resources they need to do their job. So right now we broke ground on our new central station at where our administration complex is on Milner. In Port St. Lucie. We are also doing a fire station in Fort Pierce, and we will be doing one to be open in 2025 on Village Parkway in Tradition, because we're seeing that is obviously where our growth is, and we've known that. And so we're actively in that process right now. And then we are also in process of looking at where our next stations need to be, especially since we have even more growth in the northwestern portion of the city, in the Western Grove area. And then since it's a countywide district, we have, with the county just approving the application and comp plan amendment for Oak Ridge Ranches, which is going to be another 8,600 homes in the future. So this is something that we have to look at on a regular basis to make sure we're planning properly to be able to continue to service our citizens and provide that emergency response.
And 18, very excited about.
That's Milner, right?
It's going to be our new central fire station.
Yes.
And currently, in the past, Station 1 in Fort Pierce was considered our central fire station, and that just doesn't really reflect, how we've grown. So that is going to be the first 2-story station that we built since 1984 when we built Fire Station 1. And a number of unique things about it. It's a very large station. It's meant to be a hub. There'll be 4 full bays. And there's also going to be a little bit history of the previous central fire station. So there's some design elements.
Oh, cool.
We're actually in the process of restoring the first fire engine that the fire district ever built. Was a 1921 American LaFrance. And so there'll be a bay there. We'll have a lot of ability to bring the public in. And I just think it's to be a real, with my family history, I think it's a real prideful point for that. Our Deputy Chief Paul Langle is the head of special projects. He's just been absolutely instrumental in getting these stations going. It's a tough process. We tease him all the time, but I couldn't imagine the amount of work that he's putting into developing these stations. And so 18 is great. Some other unique things about that is it's personal to me because my father contracted prostate cancer, and maybe largely due to being in the fire service. But that's going to house our facility where we clean our first responders' structural firefighting gear.
Oh,
it's very important.
Yeah.
We have a state-of-the-art program that even NYFD has been looking at to copy. It keeps our firefighters safe. It's a full-time job. It needs a facility, but having seen that firsthand, it's important to keep our men and women. They're out there running those calls. We have to keep them safe. So that station is going to be there. We talked about 19. 19 is going to also be a potential site for our training facility. We talked about how many people we have to train.
Yep.
We have 20 new hires starting on Monday.
All right.
The college is growing itself, so they have a lot of things going on there in space. We've always had a great relationship. They've been amazing with us, but we're going to have a little bit more space at that station, which is for a department of our size, having a training facility is really important.
And the training facility / Station 19, that will be
Kings Highway
the Kings
area.
Highway.
Kings
Okay.
Highway area.
Okay.
And to deal with that growth that we're seeing there, but I was going to bring up. I remember when we opened Station 17. And we do a way that we catalog the inventory for stations, high, medium, low volume, how many supplies we give them. And, when you look at the data, it doesn't reflect in your mind. We're like, that's a high volume station.
That's in tradition.
It's
Station
in tradition.
17. Okay.
17 that's already there. In my mind, from when I was, I'm like, they're pretty busy. They're very
No, they're busy.
They're very busy. And another thing that I know that the administration's been looking at is adding to Station 10, which is on Dalton Circle, that is also in Port St. Lucie, because that is really becoming a second hub where for us, because it can respond to so many different areas. So we're looking at expanding our ability to house units there. That won't be a new build, but an add-on to some bays. So lots of growth in Port St. Lucie.
Yes.
It's keeping us on our toes. We talked earlier that as a fire department as a whole, it's very tough to deal with the growth. And one of the things that I just want to say thank you to all of our crews, our support staff, the mechanics that keep the truck running, the IT that keeps the computers working, ambulance billing, I could go through every division, and they've played a part in improving this ISO score while dealing with the growth. It would be enough alone if we could manage the growth.
Yes.
But to improve
To
what
do
we're
both.
doing, every last person down to our maintenance staff, keeping our buildings in good shape, because we know that we had a pause where we couldn't really update a lot of the buildings.
Right.
So they're professionals in every manner, and really just proud of all of that. And again, without that fire board support, which you've been instrumental in, we wouldn't be in that position.
This was a wonderful conversation. I'm so happy that you decided to ask Division Chief Crouse to come in. I learned so much. Is there anything that you want to add? I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, I just want to, it's important for me to make sure that our citizens are educated, we communicate, and then going over these fine details and explaining just how much it takes in order to get us at the levels that we're at and how we're going to continuously work to improve, and sharing that with our residents is just really very vitally important, because there's a lot going on at every second, every minute of the day.
Sure is.
And it's not like there's people sitting behind their desks doing nothing. I mean, we are, all of us together working in partnership to make our community the best it can be, are running full speed ahead, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, for this continuous improvement to be able to handle the challenges and the opportunities of the growth. Because although there's a lot of negativity out there, want to keep showing what the positive is, want to keep discussing our opportunities and what we are doing to overcome our challenges that we all have together.
I agree. We talked about this last time. I'm sorry to interrupt, about, the growth. It's a big hot topic issue right now, but with growth comes lots of other opportunities for us.
Yes.
So I'm glad you
I
brought
was going
that
to
up.
say, one of the things that's, challenges, we could replace that word with opportunity.
Yes.
We really should, because
Yes.
one of the things that we always talk about, we didn't talk about getting fire trucks and rescue trucks right now, right?
Yeah.
Some of our fire engines are 40 months out. Rescue trucks are about
Wow.
24 months out from the time we order them. And so we could say that's a challenge, but as you see how we've worked to maintain the fleet that we have and to come up with creative ways to build efficiency into that, when we do get those units, that efficiency isn't going away.
Right.
So as much as it was hard, it allows us to learn and to come up with these creative ways to make sure that we're doing it just to the best possible degree we can. And without those, you need a little bit of pressure to find out where the pipes burst, and then you can fix them and move on. And I definitely think it's opportunities for City of Port St. Lucie, the fire district, the county as a whole. We're going to do everything we can to meet that.
Yeah, it's amazing that how everybody works together just to make sure that everyone is safe, county residents, city residents. It's a great thing to see. So I thank you, Mayor Martin, for coming by again.
Absolutely.
And it was a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely.
And we are going to put that information about the ISO rating letter in the show notes. Still send us your topics that you want us to talk about, cityofpsl.com/podcast. And again, thank you both for joining us today.
And one last thing, I just want to say thank you to the residents of not just Port St. Lucie County as a whole. The support that we see,
Yeah.
it's amazing. That means a lot. When you're going through trying to do these things, and our men and women out there get the support from the community, it's an awesome thing for them to see. So I want to thank the community for that and supporting us in these options, these times, and just hats off to them. That helps us.
Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
It was great to chat with you guys. Thanks
Me too.
again.
Thanks.